And another Fox News alert, day 3 of the partial government shutdown. After meeting over the weekend, the Senate was adjourned until Thursday. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell urging some level of compromise.
The president, from whom we will need a signature, and Senate Democrats, from whom we will need votes, reach an agreement. No procedural votes, no test votes, just a meaningful vote on a bipartisan agreement whenever that is reached. And it's my hope that it's reached sooner rather than later.
Our Ellison Barber is at the White House tracking all of this. And Ellison, is the White House still saying they must have that $5 billion for border security or no deal?
Well, they've come down from that number a little bit. We've repeatedly heard the White House say, they've been saying it all weekend, that they need $5 billion for border security and some sort of physical barrier. A senior administration official briefed reporters on Saturday and said that that was what they expected from Congress. But of course, things move pretty fast around here. And with 24 hours of that official briefing, reporters, Vice President Mike Pence and Budget Director Mick Mulvaney were on their way to Capitol Hill to meet with Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer and give him a counter offer. The White House says that offer is somewhere between $1.3 billion and $5 billion.
The ball is in the Senate's court. Of course, keep in mind, any bill that comes out of the Senate on this topic will have to have 60 votes, so they'll have to have Democrat support. They are at 1.3 yesterday. We were at $5 billion a couple of days ago. We moved off of the 5. We hope they move up from their 1.3.
A Democratic source tells Fox News the latest offer from the White House is $2.1 billion for border security, and that includes new fencing plus $400 million for other immigration priorities. Mulvaney says it is possible that this shutdown will go into the new year. Anita?
Okay, and when the White House says they want a physical barrier, we've seen the president tweet out photos of sort of something with slats. Is that more amenable to the Democrats? Do you think they might go for something like that?
Yeah, well, we've heard back and forth this idea that really everything is a game of semantics when it comes to this particular fight, that the White House, the president says he needs a wall, that Democrats don't want a wall, but now the White House says it's really more so a steel slat barrier. They're calling it a fence, a physical barrier. The president tweeted this photo last week, and the White House describes it as a steel slatted fence. They say this is what they want to build, and that they have told the Democrats this is exactly what they want to build. The White House claims that Democrats have supported this sort of thing in the past with the Secure Fence Act, that at best they are playing a game of semantics and saying they won't agree to a wall, but don't consider the steel slats to be a, quote, wall at worst. The White House says this is all about politics for Democrats. The president tweeting this morning, quote, virtually every Democrat we are dealing with today strongly supported a border wall or fence. It was only when I made it an important part of my campaign because people and drugs were pouring into our country unchecked that they turned against it. Desperately needed. Democrats, of course, say this is all about politics for the president and that he is throwing a temper tantrum and playing politics at the taxpayers' expense.
If you don't fix it, we're going to send Anthony Scaramucci out there to do the job.
By the way, he's here.
It'll take me less than 11 days, but I'll break that thing up for you. Go ahead.
All right, so Anthony, of course, your book is still out, and it is Trump, the blue-collar president, and that really personifies why he's successful, why it resonates with so many working class and so many in the middle America. But let's talk about some of the messaging coming out of the White House.
Sure.
They see what's happening with the markets. They see what's happening with Mattis. They see what's happening with the trade deals, and they think it's chaos. Is it?
It's not chaos. It's basically the president is probably one of the few people that's willing to play a long game as opposed to all these little blips and ticks in the market. Long game on trade, long game on Middle East strategy. I mean, one of the reasons why he's pulling out, you saw it right here. He doesn't want to put these people in harm's way unnecessarily. In his opinion, he's decimated ISIS, and it's time to pass the baton on to people in the region to secure the rest of the
They have
situation.
different objectives. That's the problem.
Yeah, I understand that. But here's the thing. You know, we can't be everything to everybody, Brian. And so I think the president recognizes that. And, you know, you're spending $1 trillion of debt. And I'm with the president on this. I'm with Rand Paul and the president on this.
So,
and, you know, people are upset with me because it's outside of the neocon and it's outside of the traditional Republican stuff. But I've been to these places. You know, I've been to Afghanistan. I've been to Iraq. I'm not saying that we have to have a complete withdrawal, but I totally understand where the president's coming from. And I wrote a piece in the Atlantic Council on Friday as to why adventurism and this whole neocon strategy has been not that successful.
But one thing, though, and Brian raised this a little bit, and that is the military. This is what the media is really focusing on, is the fact that the president's not listening to the military advisors. I think General Mattis has an unquestioned and perhaps unparalleled experience. He took us into Afghanistan, and then he took us into Iraq, and he says stay.
I have an enormous amount of respect for General Mattis. There's no question about that. But I also recognize where the president's going and where the intersection needs to be. He's going to leave levels of troops in Afghanistan. You know, we have way more troops in Iraq. We scaled it down. That was an incorrect decision by the Obama administration. Had to be scaled back up. But, you know, we were supposed to be in Syria for a few months, and now it's been 3 years, and it's this drag. And I'll point out that what John F. Kennedy once said, you know, you have to be very careful. You know, we have a military industrial complex that's established, and you know, the impulse is to fight. But sometimes the better impulse is not to fight. Think of what John Kennedy did in those cabinet meetings during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Curtis LeMay wanted to wipe out Cuba. Kennedy asked him, how big would the casualties be? 150 million people. He looked over at his brother and said, and they call this a human race? And so I really admire and respect the president having some restraint.
But
all of those impulses.
Just so you know, Anthony, we've lost 3 guys in 3 years. 3 too many, I get it. But they're supporting and killing terrorists. They're trying to kill us here, especially as a New Yorker.
I understand the situation with the Kurds. You know, you and I may disagree on this. You know, I respect you immensely. But here's the problem. When you're in that decision and you're the commander-in-chief and you're looking at the entire landscape of what you need to do and you're looking at our resources, the president's done a very good job of, in my opinion, playing the long game. And so, you know, the market is a little haywire right now. It's a little uncertain about trade. There's algo trading in there. I think the market's at a bottom. Well, you know, I'm running $11.5 billion, and hopefully you'll invite me back in a few weeks. You'll see the market start to rally.
Well, and let's stay on that, because Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, was calling around U.S. banks trying to reassure them everything is okay. So what is the state of the economy today?
So now
and
everybody's
is the administration
criticizing,
nervous about it?
Okay, so now everybody's criticizing Stephen for doing that. And so if he didn't do that, people would be criticizing him for not doing it. But the truth of the matter is, it's a totally appropriate thing for him to do, to call around to the banks because of what happened in 2008. The best thing about the United States, though, is we restructured our banks and we strengthened the balance sheet of those banks. Look at what's going on in the European banking system. And by the way, no one talks about this, but look at the devastation taking place in China. That stock market's down 35%. The currency's getting crushed. What the president has basically shown people is that the United States, with 25% of the GDP, is still in control of the global economy. He would just like fairness in trade. He's not looking for anything aggressive. He's just saying, hey, your tariffs are up here, ours are down here, move yours down, or we're going to move ours up. So I don't understand why that is such a big deal
I think it's
to all of these people. He's playing a long game, and so it's upsetting the markets temporarily. But you got to give this guy credit for seeing this thing out for 1, 2, 3, 5 years.
Whether it's
He's trying to adjust a 45, 50-year trade imbalance.
Whether it's trade or what's going on in Syria, yesterday Governor Chris Christie, you know him, was on the Sunday shows, and he says this whole style of governing, no one should have been surprised. Take a quick listen to this.
What they voted for was Washington to be upended. They hate Washington, D.C.
That certainly happened.
Right? But John, that's my point. You know, this hysteria about, oh, I've never seen chaos like this. This is what the American people voted for. They said that the way Washington was being run by both parties was not effective, and they wanted a disruptor, and now they've got a disruptor. Now, you know, people may decide they don't like this much disruption, but don't tell me this is not what people expected. People who voted for him, and if you talk to people who are supporters of him, they like this.
Anthony, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would just add 2 paragraphs to what the governor just said. The president's policies, by and large, step back, are all common sense related. They're actually quite moderate. There's nothing too aggressive about it. He would like border security. The Democrats have now used the wall as a symbol to defeat the president. In the meantime, they used to be for border security. Now, all of a sudden, they're not for border security. The president is about using the military to do strategic things to secure national security and peace for the United States. He's a pretty moderate, common sense-oriented guy. The president's about right-sizing the trade deals. So these guys in Washington hate his guts for a reason. Right. He's not from them, and he cannot be bought.
I have a prediction.
Okay, and you know what? Good for him. Merry Christmas, Mr. President. Thank God we got you in there.
Within 90 days, he pulls off that China deal.
Yeah.
You're going to see the market boom in a way in which no one can predict.
Not only
the right way.
by the way, the market is at a bottom, so you'll remember I said that, okay? Because I look at all those technicals and fundamentals. I may have not been the best White House communications director, but let me tell you something.
He knows money.
I've been running money for 30 years, and the market has been oversold by all these technical algorithms, and Stephen Mnuchin is doing the right thing by letting everybody know that we're liquid. And there's no reason to overly panic here.
Right.
I expect the market to rally off of it.
Thank you. That's
going to be
for
good for my
Christmas.
passbook savings.
Yeah, your passbook saying this guy is so loaded, you have no idea. Okay? And the rest of these people know he's a little bit of a miser like Scrooge. This
We
guy.
always compare hedge funds in the break.